Well, hey everyone, welcome to Ripple Effect Podcast. I don't know, Daniel always says which episode we're on. I have no idea at this point, but I am proud of us that we've actually done this every week so far. When we launched it, we had this conversation like, oh, are we going to be able to keep up with this every single week? But we asked certain people to hold us accountable to that, and so far we haven't needed it, although today is a day later than usual. We're posting on Wednesday instead of Tuesday, and that's on purpose because we wanted this guy here, and you'll hear more from him in a little bit. So normally we start off with a sponsor of the week, and this didn't come from Marshall's, by the way. I was just hiding it. It's not really a sponsor of the week. It's more like an award this week. So we started a new quarter, and I don't know, quarters roll around often, but this one, for whatever reason, I noticed the stress of Mary getting all the teachers way more. I don't know if I was just overhearing more or what. But
finding teachers for a quarter is always a challenge, especially the preschool classes. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of commitment. And, we've thought about all kinds of things like only teaching once a week once a month. But that's really hard for kids who have attachment disorders to get comfortable with who's in their classroom. But this has been one of those quarters where I've had a lot of no's. And it does get overwhelming. But, we're committed to having 2 people in a classroom for safety for teachers and kids. And, we have a lot of young families, which we're really grateful for, but that also means a lot of preschoolers. So it has been a difficult quarter to staff this time. So
yeah, well, we should have gotten Mary a crown or something, because I always say I have people to recruit, but if worse comes to worse, I can just sit up there at the piano and play music. You can't really do that in her department. But
I was really excited this Sunday because I had somebody who's never helped in kids classes before, who did their background check, and we're really excited. And so this was their first Sunday ever being in a preschool class as a helper, and she loved it. And so if you too are out there thinking, I wish I was involved in something, there's a lot of laughs, a lot of hugs, a lot of good Bible teaching that happens in children's Sunday school classes, and I'd love to talk to you, so just contact me. Yeah,
well, that was sort of a alternate motive for mentioning that, was just because we do constantly need a new influx of volunteers, because you're always going to have some that decide, I need some time off. I've done this for 8 years straight or whatever. Yes. And so if that's you, please talk to one of us, and we'll get you plugged in somewhere. Now, Sunday, we started a new series. I did not preach the series, so once again, I'm sort of recapping it for Daniel. This is the week of the MCC, the Missouri Christian Convention, so he's going crazy with all that stuff. So pray for him and that event, as there's all the logistics that'll be coming together today, tomorrow, and then starting the convention on Friday. But we had this series called Covered in Dust that we started.
Okay.
And it's you weren't here Sunday, right?
I missed this last Sunday.
I saw your family, but you were gone.
Yep.
So it's based on that quote, and I've heard it several places. I don't know where it originated, but it's about being covered in the dust of your rabbi. Like the rabbi, the disciples of a rabbi would follow behind, and the rabbi would be kicking up dust, and they would end up covered in it. And it's just sort of a figurative and literal word picture there.
Not necessarily teaching like we think of it in a classroom, but daily walking alongside, experiencing what was happening.
So, Daniel said we need to learn from the one who did it best, which is Jesus. And then we're talking about making disciples and being more intentional ourselves. Yeah. And that really involves looking at Jesus and how he did it, and whatever parallels we can draw to model our own discipleship of others after him. And so the title this week, I think, was that Jesus calls. Was that right? I can't remember the title exactly, but it was we were talking about how if we're truly following Jesus, trying to make disciples, we'll will call others to follow Jesus like he did.
Okay.
Like he called the 12 and others to follow after him. And Daniel talked about a lot of different things. Like, yes, sometimes we need to actually talk about Jesus. It's not all about just living like
Right.
Jesus in front of them, you know. But he finished up with some questions, and I just wanted to point out one question, maybe because it's the one that convicts me the most. And it was, are we waiting for them to step into our world, or are we stepping into their world? And of course, you know, we're ministers. We're hoping people step into our world, walk through the church doors, and yet, you know, I'm convicted. Are there times in my week or my month or whatever that I'm stepping into the world of somebody who doesn't know Jesus, that might never walk through the front doors on their own?
I think you also have to be, it's hard because when you're in the bubble of the church and all of the things that you do, a lot of times you're not around unchurched people. And even for me, one of the things to just try to be sensitive to that, like coaching Little Spartans football.
Yeah.
You know, I like to do that, and it wears me out, but I enjoy those kids, but it keeps me in community to be able to see those kids, see those families, and understand some of the dynamics that are coming out of their home. And I'm always reminded, this is why I do what I do. This is why I love the Lord the way I do. And how can I show that? And how can I bring that forward, even on whether it's here in church, obviously, but even on a football field or at practice, talking about what it means to do hard things and what it means to be a person of character.
Yeah.
And those kinds of stuff. So yeah, you have to be intentional about it, or you'll just slip into your routine. It'll never happen.
Right. And that's I think what it is for me is there's so many things that clog up the routine.
Yeah.
That you have to eliminate something else really to make that space. But it's something we should all be doing, and we've been saying if we're calling our church people that make up our church to do this, we better be finding spots in our schedule to do all these things as well. All right, so that was the recap. I think we move on to the TLCC top 3. These are which is probably debatable what everybody thinks are the top 3 every week, but we said at our meeting and are like, this can't be a 1 hour podcast, so we're going to highlight 3 things every week. So Mary's got the first one.
The first one is, don't forget that this Sunday is daylight savings. So you're turning your clocks ahead 1 hour.
Yep.
So make sure that you account for that when you're getting ready on Sunday, when you anticipate being here and when services are starting, and maybe get a little extra sleep that night. I know it's going to be rough for people who are at the convention and traveling back, but Sunday is daylight savings day.
We're having, because of the convention, we're having worship team practice that morning, and so I'm like, it's going to feel like 6 o'clock when we get here and try to start singing and practicing. But all right, the second one is we're going to do a better introduction of Janeil in a minute. We're a little bit out of order with this today, but Janeil works over at Central Christian College of the Bible, and they have something coming up for guys. You want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it's the Men's Solid Conference on March 23rd. We got workshops starting at 2. It goes from 2 to 6. There's supper involved. So if you want to come out and be encouraged, and you're looking at the climate that we're in now, and you're like, what can you speak on? What can you say? How do I even lift my voice for the Lord in a climate, in a context the way our culture is? What does that look like? I don't even know how to do that. We want to come and help unpack that. And we're going to have Orpheus Hayward, just a dynamic speaker. He's going to come. He's going to give. He's kind of our main guy that's speaking, but just a lot of encouragement in that very topic of finding your voice. You as a leader, and we're men. You as a leader. You as a father. You as a brother. You as somebody that's stepping up and advancing the kingdom. We want to help you solidify that. That's why we call it our Solid Conference. So we welcome you to come on out. That's March 23rd. That's a Thursday, starting from 2 to 6.
If you're someone that works during the day, during that 2 to 6 period, there is a banquet following that, and they always say that we're welcome to just show up for the banquet. Yes. It's at 6:30. the ticket for that, they said, is $25 unless you're an alumni or a teenager, and then it's $15.
You can reserve a table if you get a group of guys to come.
Yeah.
Doing that too.
There's also something I've never noticed before. It says a $10 online ticket.
If you want to watch online.
That's
if
just
you want to zoom in and you can't make it, you want to just watch from distance, then we can do that for $10.
Yeah. Can you send their food?
Send their, we'll Grubhub or something, DoorDash,
yeah.
From the cafeteria. We'll get it there. We'll send some students. We'll get you.
Number 3,
Easter schedule.
You want to talk about that one?
Sure. We're having a Good Friday service at 7 o'clock on Good Friday. It's going to be family friendly, so there won't be any separate childcare or child programming. It will all be together, and it will be interactive. And so meet us on Friday at 7. And then on Easter morning, we have first service at 8 o'clock. And there will be nursery and preschool during that hour. And then breakfast is at 9:15. And then second service will be at 10:45, again with nursery and preschool provided.
Yep. So no adult Sunday school classes that morning.
We eat in all these rooms.
And I really like that. The last couple of years we've done that. We kind of get our food in there, but then you scatter and kind of have tables in this room and in all these other classrooms and get to chat with some people you don't see all the time. And
the kids provide and serve that breakfast, and they love doing it.
And it's a fundraiser.
It is.
There's no set cost for it. Usually you just donate to the children's ministry what you're able to, and it helps them improve things, buy new things. It's a little different every year what they end up using that for. But it's one of their fundraisers. All right, so those are the TLCC top 3. We're going to move on to our spotlight, which Janeil's already talked a little bit, but this is Janeil Owen. He's representing today Central Christian College of the Bible, which is one of our missions partners. So once in a while in the podcast, we're going to spotlight one of our missions partners, and when it's possible, have them here, or I've even toyed around with having them by a Zoom, where you, for the ones that are further away. So that would be cool. But the easiest one to go to is Central because they're literally right around the corner. So Janeil, tell everyone what your role is at the college.
Yes, I am the Vice President of Operations and Advancement. So I oversee all of the grounds, the buildings, any of the things that are kind of also our for-profit things that we do that you might consider, like our bookstore, our Harvest House, which is our coffee shop, the cafeteria, that sort of stuff. And then the advancement side is all about fundraising, getting out, getting into churches. So a lot of mornings when I'm not here, it's because I'm out at a different church, being able to either preach or give an update on Central and just encourage our other supporters that are out there in and around Missouri.
Yeah.
But happy to be here in this moment to be able to just connect and say hi. I consider this my church home, so it's always good to be home. I know my kids are here a lot and love Timberlake, and so thankful for the partnership and so thankful for the way that you have blessed us at Central. I will tell you, if I'm checking spreadsheets and everything else, I believe Timberlake is our number one donating church, and so you guys are kind of really living link into what we do over at the college, and so we're very thankful. But I'm also just personally thankful to Timberlake for the impact you have on my family, because you're ministering to them every week. And my kids live on purpose, live in community, and they bring their friends to church. And so you'll see there's when you count up all the Owens that are here, there's 7 of us, but we'll take out a row and a half because there'll be 10, 12, 13 of us.
Yeah, there was a train on Sunday.
Yes, it happens. And so we're just very, very appreciative of the ministry that they get here, and very thankful for your leadership and Daniel's and the whole crew.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to ask you is you came to Central, but didn't you used to work in Haiti?
Yes, that's for me. That's my upbringing. That's all the ministry stuff that I've ever known as a young kid. Was I remember the family loading up in the station wagon and traveling around to all the different churches because we had started Northwest Haiti Christian Mission. And my mom and dad was, as we traveled around looking to gain support and those sorts of things. And And so back then, it would be us 4 kids. We'd get up and sing. Mama would do the slideshow presentation and sing this song called "The Road to Port-a-Pay." My dad would preach, and then after church, you had a potluck. And if you sold them all the family, then you probably sold them on your ministry. It was before the internet and everything else. I mean, all you had was the slide projector. And so those were those kind of early days, and then eventually going to that country and falling in love with it. I went to Cincinnati Bible College, one of the colleges that we would have thought in our brotherhood was too big to fail. It's no longer there, and we're kind of trying to raise that torch up, keep it burning there through our efforts in Cincinnati. But then I went straight to Haiti. I met my wife in Haiti. She came down on a mission trip, and short story is we got married and had 100 kids. Like that's straight out. Like we got married and moved to the orphanage that we had and tried to figure out how to be mom and dad to 100 children that needed somebody pouring into them and loving them and encouraging them in the Lord. And then I got to lead this thing called Haiti One. It was all about what would it look like if the church, and for us organizations, were not so siloed, and we actually shared our best practices, and we looked out for each other, and instead of always reduplicating the person that's next to us, their efforts, if they've got that covered, what if we got into this over here? Because Haiti's a hard place to work. And so we had about 300 to 500 different organizations, 300 of them that were really in kind of on fire for it, really partnered well, and we were feeding over 100,000 children a day.
Wow.
And so being able to work with them, get to know the whole country, ended up coming back to Missouri. So my wife Heather, her dad was the preacher at Forum Christian Church forever and ever in Columbia, Missouri. He was retiring. Her mom had early stages of dementia, and there was just opportunity to come back home. She wanted to come back home for a season. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I had driven a lot of big equipment in Haiti, and as a kid, I always wanted to be a preacher, but I also had other kid dreams. So I wanted to be a preacher football player. I wanted to be the first preacher in space. I also wanted to be a preacher truck driver. And so when I came back, I ended up driving a truck. So I'd done ministry this whole time. And I ended up driving out of Fulton, Missouri. And so if you remember during this time, it was pandemic times. And so in the middle of the pandemic, I am driving for the Dollar General. I'm delivering toilet paper, sometimes by police escort, no lie, to the Dollar Generals. And I'm just thinking the whole time, Lord, are you okay with this? Like, are you good with me doing this? And it really was a struggle for me because I wasn't in ministry in that moment. And I just didn't know if the Lord would be pleased with it, or if I was like Jonah stuck in the belly of a truck, just waiting for him to vomit me out somewhere. Of all places, turned out to be Moberly, Missouri, and David Fincher. It ended up our connection here. So my wife Heather runs Primrose Hill, and she was doing that when we first moved to Columbia. That was a connection we had coming out of Texas, and so she started working there, and eventually got to where she was running it. And we were trying to figure out where we wanted to put roots. And so we needed to get out of her mom and dad's house. And so we looked at where we could go, ended up coming to Moberly so she could be closer to this community. But it wasn't long. Heather came to church here. I was working weekends. I couldn't come. And David Fincher was preaching that Sunday. And my wife, the blessed introvert, would never go down forward. She would always go back. That Sunday, she went down forward after church. Felt like she had to meet him, had to connect with him.
Wow. And
so she connected with David, and David ended up having her speak at Rotary, I think, about what she was doing. And then she even got to speak at chapel about, hey, here's some things you can do in ministry. And I was just cheerleading her on from the truck on the side of the road, and he said, well, what's your husband doing? Like, what? And he ended up knowing my family from Northwest Haiti Christian Mission. There was a church that he interned at in Iowa when he was young, and that was a church that supported us. He's like, wait a minute, you're in Moberly? Janeil is in Moberly, Missouri, has all this ministry experience. Is he driving a truck? I need that guy. I got a couple things I need him to do. He could probably do both. And in the end, that's what I did. It's like, I need an operations guy. I need an advancement guy. you think you want to do both of them? I'm like, that's just over my head enough to where I think I'll do it. And so he did. He got me out of that truck and got me at Central. And
Well, I knew some of that story, but there were several pieces of it that just hearing you tell it all at once it came together for me, and that's really cool. And some other time we can talk more about like Primrose Hill, maybe even on the podcast for people that it would be hard for me to imagine people don't know about like Primrose Hill and things like that, but we always figure out when you start talking about it, people don't know.
Sure.
So that would be another great segment at some point. And also about Haiti. I mean, I'm involved with Haiti too, but that's another segment as well. But we always leave you with a closing blessing of the week, and so as we're talking about shining our light and just being bold and sharing our faith and following in Jesus' footsteps like we are in this series, we're often feeling inadequate or overwhelmed when we think about that and the task that's in front of us. And I think that Psalm 121 speaks to that. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and evermore. And the psalmist just reminds us, or reminds himself that his help comes not from his own strength and abilities. And we need to be reminded of that too. It comes from God. And so as you go through, this week or this month, or as you think about putting into practice some of the things we're talking about in this series and this special emphasis on discipleship this year, just trust in God's care and his protection and his provision and his strength, and be reminded that God is involved in every moment if we'll just look for how he wants to work through us. So that's our blessing for the week. We hope to maybe we'll see you at the Missouri Christian Convention if you're there, and if not, hope to see you on Sunday.